Master G.
Please don't go. Keep me warm. Just a while longer.
We know that Jinshi is a beginner level adult, and there are countless times where we even got to witness it.
けれど、時折見せる幼い振る舞いが本来のジンシ様の姿だとしたら、よし、この件はひとまず置いておこう。
His childish side is what makes his character so lovable, yet a little questionable. Just like season 1, we will end this season with a wholesome scene as well. And I'm really hoping that they will announce season 3 by the end, because I really can't get enough of them. But honestly speaking, I'm not ready for this season to end. However, at the same time, I do feel sad every time they take a week break. And I was kind of worried because we have already reached the latest chapters of one manga and the author was coming back on 25th, but I forgot that we have the GX manga and the novel. So let's follow them and go through one of my favorite Shinma moments again. It's probably not news to anyone that Jinshi will end up getting a scar from our sweet vixen Shishui, aka Rodan. But what I'm looking forward to is seeing Gaoshon getting mad and hitting Basin because he had failed to protect Jinshi properly. And don't get me wrong, it's not because I don't like Basin, it's just because I like Gaoshon's character a lot. Plus it was not that detailed in the novel, but they drew it pretty well in the manga. So I'm excited to see it getting animated. Also, if you don't mind spoilers and can't wait much, check out these videos. They basically have the She arc and my love for Shisui. Alright, so Jinshi finally saw Gaoshon again, who promptly told him to get some sleep. Truth to be told, it was only just then that Jinshi realized that he really hasn't slept for the past several days. He asked Gaoshon how Maomao was doing and Gaoshon pointed at the carriage. Jinshi ignored him and entered the vehicle. There he discovered a small young woman laying asleep on top of several blankets. She was surrounded by the dead children of Shi clan. Jinshi didn't understand why she was sleeping with them, but decided to stay by her side either way. He gazed at Maomao's face. There was blood on it, and her left ear was swollen. None of this would have happened to Maomao if she had never gotten involved with him. The thought made his heart ache. Other than her ear, she had no injuries to speak of, but he could see a dark bruise on her neck. Had someone hit her? And the blood, it must have come from somewhere. He was lost in his thoughts and slowly he reached out his hand and then she wakes up, looking at him just like someone who's trying to drive away a nasty little housefly. Jinshi obviously panicked, waving his hand and stumbling over his words as he tried to explain himself. But before Maomao could press further, she noticed a bandage on his face. Curious, she asked about it, but Jinshi brushed it off, calling it a little scratch. However, his attempt to hide it only made Maomao more determined to see it. She moved closer until he was backed up against the wall. When she finally took a good look, she saw that it was more than just a scratch. There was a deep wound stitches unevenly across his cheek. Then she realized that Jinshi had been involved in the fighting. And when she questioned why he put himself in danger, he simply said that he couldn't sit back while others fought. Why not? You're important enough. Her annoyance begins to show in her tone. It might just be because of the fact that she feels bad for the people around him, but it could be because she feels bad for him too. Maybe a little. I wish you wouldn't go running into danger. If you get yourself hurt, it will cause trouble for everyone around you. He knows this, but he couldn't just say no to Shisui's request to scar his face, knowing he looked so much like the man her mother hated. Maomao noticed the dark bags under his eyes and think that he looked way worse than she does, even though she was the one who got kidnapped. So she asked him to rest up a little, but he lies down next to her, pulling her close, despite her protest that the place is unclean and unfit for him. His hands are cold, and when she tries to pull away, his grip is strong. They end up lying next to each other, facing each other on the animal skin. Then she asked, then why are you here? Maomao didn't tell him about the reincarnation medicine or anything, simply saying she just have pity for the children. He obviously sees right through her, though he doesn't say anything, and finally gets a chance to inspect her injuries, including the bruise on her neck, where Shinmei attacked her with her fan. What happened to you? He asked, frowning. Maomao was a little embarrassed, but she decided it would be best to move things along promptly. I met someone who was less than nice. I love how she worded things, but frankly, that woman was pure evil. Then Jinshi asked, "You were attacked?" with his icy voice. She doesn't say anything, and as Jinshi seemed awfully concerned about everyone's chastity, it was a woman. She adds, "You don't think there will be a scar?" "What? From this? It'd be gone before you know it," Maomao replies, as if she doesn't want him to worry about her. But he was still concerned and insists, "Don't go on getting a scar." To which Maomao responds, "I could say the same about you, sir." Jinshi frowns, "I'm a man. What it matters to me?" "Oh, you're quite suppressive, man," Maomao says. "As if I care," Jinshi shot back. "Then I don't care either. If one scar is enough to obliterate my value, then so be it." I love how she spoke her mind here, and I'm not the only one, because Jinshi also says, without sitting up or letting go of her wrist, that after you give me such a piece of your mind, am I such that one scar would obliterate my value? His hand tightening on her wrist, she could feel his cold hands now becoming warm. "Am I nothing more than my face?" he asked. And Maomao shook her head. "Frankly, a bit of a scar might do you good," she said, more honestly than she could have meant to. In a moment of fatigue or vulnerability, or maybe both, he pulls Maomao even closer, leaning in until their faces are almost touching. But before things could escalate again, there's a sudden clatter. Jinshi jumps, startled by the noise, and Maomao snaps back to reality. She rushes over to check on the children, feeling their wrist one by one until she finally finds a pulse. So this scene of them ends here. After he gives her warm blankets and everything, he whispers in her ear that they should continue this later. And our girl was like, yeah, whatever you say, without thinking that he would actually be back. I might be over-exaggerating it, but I really do love these silent scenes between them. He's obviously more than just a duty to her. And believe me or not, she does starts to grow a soft spot for him. Why else would she let him bite her and let him sleep with his head on her legs, while the pillows were right there? And I mean, she could have just run away and leave him be, but she stayed. This one is the last scene from the epilogue, where Maomao come back to the pleasure district like nothing had changed. But something was different. Her mind keeps going back to the rare palace where her adoptive father had stayed. She thought back to Jinshi and how he looked similar to Ado, but like always, she dropped her thoughts. Anyways, the author did a great job showing Maomao's emotion, and it breaks my heart every time I reread it. Because Maomao has lost a lot, and she was trying to tell herself that she was better this way. But when she read Xiaolon's letter and reached the end where she had written, "I hope I get to see you again sometime. I want more ice cream," she felt something warm gently roll down her cheek, and it fell onto the paper. And that's when everything hits her. One can argue that she was only crying for her friend, but I'd say her dam just broke after holding in so much. And it hurts me to know the fact that her first thought after her small breakdown was that Jinshi probably didn't need her at the inner palace anymore. She told herself that for his injury there were perfect doctors around. He didn't need Maomao. Her old man was there at the palace, so she couldn't have done anything even if she was there. Anyway, she thinks that now Jinshi was no longer unique. He couldn't get away with keeping some low-born girl around him. He wouldn't have to sneak and spy anymore anyways, so it was for the best. She thought again, thinking that it was for the best that she come back to the apothecary shop in the pleasure district. So now she stays up all night to create medicine and had to give herself several new wounds on her left arm to test them out. It wasn't working though, her pain tolerance was pretty high. So she decided to cut deeper, just to be sure, and picked up a small knife, tie a string on her pinky finger, but before she could harm herself, a beautiful voice interrupts her. "What are you doing?" Jinshi was standing there with his mask and a gauchon. Also, it's not surprising that her coping mechanism was to make medicine and test it on herself all night, but the fact that she tried to hurt herself even more to feel something was just heartbreaking to me. She could make excuses with her pain tolerance being high, but I have read enough to believe what I believe. Then she gave the folded cushion a smack to straighten it out and set it in front of Jinshi. He sat down and began his complaints about his work, and she listened. He was tired with all the work regarding She clan territories and dealing with all the stops. Her listening battery soon runs out, and her mind starts to wander off to other things when he calls out to her. "Don't pretend I'm not here," he says. "Sorry, sir, old habit," she replies. "Never mind, don't worry about it." Jinshi took a bite of the snack and drank down the rest of his tea. When Maomao got up to move, she found Jinshi grabbing her wrist. "Yes, sir, what is it?" He tugged her to sit back down. He was staring the side of her face more intensely, gazing at her hair. She was fairly sure the bruise from where she had been struck had gone by now. She noticed he smelled sweet. It wasn't the smell of the snacks, but of his own perfume. After being satisfied with inspecting her healing wounds, he says, "Perhaps it's time I ask you to make good on your promise." Right, so in the beginning chapters, he had provided her with ingredients for ice cream in return of 2 promises. First one, she wears the hairstyle he had given her, and second, she listened when people talked to her. The first promise was doomed because she had given the stick to Shisui, and the second had no reason because she already knew what he was going to tell her. Something else then? she suggested. Something else, Jinshi began, but then he said nothing further. Neither of them spoke, and the silence stretched on. What? He didn't have anything to say after all, Maomao thought. She was about to get up, eager to get back to her work, when suddenly Jinshi was coming closer, then wrapping himself around her neck. May I ask, sir, what exactly are you doing? She felt something damp and warm brushes her neck. No, surrounds it. She felt teeth. She realized she was being sweetly, gently bitten. Do you know what it means now? Jinshi asked, and she replies with the most Maomao thing. Well, humans alive can be toxic. Jinshi said absolutely nothing to that. I'd like to get back to my work, sir, she protested. However, he ignored her protest and says, I know it takes more than a little toxin to bother you, and bit harder. It started to hurt a little and she smacked him on the back. He only bit down harder. And before she could stop herself, she was pounding him softly on the shoulder. Finally, she felt his lips move away from her neck. What, are you going to bite me to death? She asked. I've wanted to at times, he replied honestly, but she really can't take any hints, and was wondering what was with this man when she found him embracing her. Then she smirked. Now, where were we? Flashback to the time he had said that they would continue later and Maomao had agreed. She finally looks at him and was distracted by the neat stitches and found herself reaching toward Jinshi's face. His eyes softened in a smile, looking somehow innocent. And are you poisonous as well? Jinshi was reaching out for Maomao's chin when they got distracted. Again, it was one of the Shi clan children, Yu, that have lost his memories and have started to live with Maomao. She took her chance and slipped past Jinshi, whose head literally dropped. Yu was showing her a lizard from the little window and Jinshi growls from the floor. She then sees a door being slightly open and Grams and Gaoshon were on the other side, probably enjoying the scene and rooting for them. She asked the Grams/the madam to get a room ready for him, and as the old woman left, she looked back at Jinshi, still laying on the ground. You seem most fatigued, Master Jinshi, she said, but he only stared at her vacantly. I think you better rest. Yes, fine, I'll do just that, he says, but didn't move an inch. Master Jinshi? She crouched down and shook his shoulder. She thought about how she can just call him Jinshi now, since she doesn't work for him anymore. And while she was thinking it over, Jinshi said, this will be my pillow, and put his head on Maomao's knees. The crown of his head was pressed up into her stomach, and his arms were wrapped around her back. Master Jinshi, she calls out. He didn't say anything. Was he asleep or just pretending? He was definitely pretending until he fell asleep. The madam quietly placed a fine cushion, then showed herself out. Maomao sighed, then started to work. The sound of pestle working was accompanied by Jinshi's even breathing. My legs are going to fall asleep, Maomao thought as she began working on a new medicine. Again, this whole thing is so wholesome, and it's definitely going to be one of my favorite animated scenes. It shows how young they both are and how they still have a long way to unlock their communication skills. But if he had confessed right there and then, when he finally have her attention, it wouldn't exactly be a slow burn. So I'm happy the way it turns out. Lastly, I do get it now. At first, I did not, but now I get it. I get why he bit Maomao. And if you don't get it and think that it's kind of a red flag, then you might want to rescue a cute cat. Alright, that was it for today. Thank you for listening to me. Take care of yourself and goodbye.
I don't really wanna hurt you, but I can't control the pain. If you're sticking by my side, maybe we could be okay. Okay, maybe you could be the change.